talked a bit recently about the male Glade Lord. Today I'm going to be taking him up on his dragon against my patron Noldor's Bretonnia. So let's get things going right off the bat. The Glade Dragon, of course, has magic poison damage, good armor piercing, better mass, of course, with the dragon updates in Immortal Empires, a bit of physical resistance as well. And then, of course, the male Glade Lord carries a Helm of Discord and a couple of passive AoE attack buffs. Right now, it's just the passive buffs. The dragon itself sitting at 58 attack, great armor-piercing weapon strength as well, over 400. Of course, with a ranged attack, also deals magic damage. So, yeah, it's just going to be generally a pretty powerful flying single entity. It is definitely at risk of Pegasus Knights in this matchup, but thankfully for me, Noldor didn't bring any in this particular battle. We've got Eternal Guards with shields up front, of course, for anti-large. A nice line of Glade Guards as well, Hagbanes and Starfires mixed. Some Dryads for anti-infantry, a bit of Cav for support as well over here, plus the Way Stalker and Lady Ariel for healing, and of course Sweet Dwellers below, carrying Apotheosis. This Berry Wine also is a huge heal and a massive Vigor refresh as well. And of course she also has the armor-piercing Awakening of the Woodbound, basically with this Acorns of the Oak of Ages. Anyway, let's take a look at the Bretonnian build as we close the distance here. We've got Blessed Trebuchet, a Ponce, and a Paladin with the Damsel of Life, some Peasant Bowmen and Men-at-Arms, along with some mobs up front, Knights of the Realm, and I believe there's a Grail Knight hidden there in the woods. In the back as well, yep, 4 Knights of the Realm. So right off the bat, I can tell that I'm going to need to cut through these peasants as quickly as possible. I really don't want to get my Eternal Guards bogged down fighting these peasants. They're just going to get shot by archers and trebuchets and whatnot. So quick hit and run charge straight into the center with the dragon, and then the archers are going to focus fire on his archers, even though it's not the most cost-efficient trade necessarily. Due to the peasant archers' low leadership, I can route them very quickly with just a couple of volleys and then move on to different targets. Rapunzel, of course, and the Paladin would be decent targets as well, but I'm going to screen with the Glade Lord, try and pull away there, and here in the woods, or in the jungle rather, counts as woods, where it's going to attack these Peasant Bowmen. Basically, here, I'm going to try and force as much of the engagement as possible, especially against Noldor's cavalry, to take place in the forest here, because it will benefit me significantly. I'm playing the Wood Elves, of course. All my units have woodsmen, including cavalry, and I believe even a dragon. Hard to say. Maybe not, but anyway, nice Dwellers below going to be unleashed here by Noldor, eating up my Eternal Guards and Dryads, but we are managing to somewhat break through the front line, get into the second level, start to pressure some of those archers in melee. Dryads also in the woods, obviously, are going to perform very well against these poor Men-at-Arms. A little bit hard to see what's going on in the dark here, but certainly the glowing Lady Ariel providing a quick terror route gets rid of these Bretonnian low-tier units, at least gets rid of their leadership momentarily. Ariel also, again, Woodsman as a large unit, or she actually has Strider, which is even better, but still, similar effect, again, in the forest. Not going to be taking too much damage. That little Awakening of the Wood doesn't do too much damage. The Knights weren't too bunched up there. I was more trying to utilize the speed debuff than anything. Noldor did make an attack in my backline with the cavalry. I was able to respond very quickly with the dragon, though. Pursue a little bit, pull back my archers slightly, and I mean, just the dragon in of itself, along with the Dryads also attacking in, is enough to rout those knights away. So definitely looking pretty good so far, but at the same time, I'm also losing out quite a bit. Eternal Guard's starting to run out of steam in a couple pockets. I'm having to reorganize and retreat my archers, get ready for another timing push. That's kind of leaving these poor Glade Riders out to dry. We are going to retreat, awaken these woods right here to eat up some of those knights, and then try and pull away, at least, you know, get Lady Ariel back to safety. She has a reasonable amount of HP and physical resistance, so it's not like she's incredibly vulnerable to the Knights of the Realm, you know, at least quickly. Like, she would definitely die to them over time. But here also, Rapunzel and the Paladin are being forced. I'm kind of just flying the dragon around right now, trying to force them away. I was looking like I wanted to charge in this pocket to bail Ariel out, but I don't really need to. She's able to get away at the cost of the Glade Riders, which is a fine sacrifice for me to make. But yeah, just flying around. The Glade Lord, of course, is going to be shooting this whole time as well. Not that it's really doing all that much damage, but picking off a few models here and there certainly is useful. Haven't really been highlighting the Waystalker either, but pretty much just been focused on the Damsel the whole time. He's had a hard time getting clean line of sight at certain points, but now should be able to start focusing down that damsel fairly efficiently. And yeah, at this point, Noldor kind of just pulling back, defending his ranged units. That Blessed Field Trebuchet has got a decent amount of damage done so far, but my biggest issue with trebuchets is just that their accuracy is so bad. Their fire rate is really not very good either. So, like right now, because I'm kind of trying to advance through the woods here, it's not really the greatest idea for Noldor. I mean, I guess he could try and charge through and just eat up my Glade Guards. If he went for a full mass attack with all 3 of these cavalry at the same time, just hit all of my archers, could probably deal a significant amount of damage. But drop down in, the dragon's going to go 2v1 here, which is certainly risky, but while I have the Helm of Discord up, it's less risky than it would otherwise be. But especially given the positioning here, since the Paladin's on one side, Rapunzel's on the other, this is really not a great situation for me. That blinded debuff also hits from Rapunzel's Halo Maidenly Wrath there. And Caster tries to come over. Of course, Caster's not mounted, so I'm just able to knock her down no problem. Ariel's also going to be throwing a nice Dwellers Below, and it's just about time to hit that Berry Wine. Yep, there it is. Huge healing spike. 3.2% HP per second is just ridiculous. I mean, it is relatively short uptime, but a huge burst heal nonetheless. Or Awakening of the Woods. Dwellers Below. Yeah, that's the spell that was cast earlier, not Awakening of the Woods. But anyway, Blade Lord's leadership is getting dangerously low. He's wavering, but manages to hold on. Nice arrows of Kurnos there into the back of those Grail Knights, dealing some damage to them. But oh yeah, those are the actual Grail Knights dealing magic damage to the Glade Lord, juiced up by Rapunzel's little AoE buff there. They were definitely putting a hurt on him, but just with the Berry Wine and like 2 Apotheosis casts, I've already heal capped the dragon, which is, you know, significant power. This 1 unit of Dryads also was able to get through eventually and get into this backline here, pressure a lot of these units quite heavily. Yeah, the fear that the Dryads cause means that they can keep these low-tier Bretonnian units routed like it's nothing. Let's get in, focus on the final stand of Rapunzel. Grail Knights charging in lance formation, sending Elves tumbling to their doom. But, of course, fighting on the edge of the woods. Technically, I think it does count in the woods, so Ariel and the dragon going to be at a significant advantage. I don't know, I'd have to test. Maybe the dragon actually does get debuffed by the woods, but regardless, still generally advantageous for me to be fighting here. This 1 unit of Eternal Guards also quite healthy, able to support. Got some more Knights riding in from the back. But unfortunately, Rapunzel, once the Paladin goes down, she kind of gets singled out to a degree here. Yes, the Grail Knights are supporting, but the Eternal Guards are kind of equaling them out. Of course, Ariel comes over to make it a 2v1, so just really not a great situation for Rapunzel. She routs, and that leads to cascading army losses. So great game by Noldor. Honestly, it's interesting. You know, the build that he had didn't necessarily have best tools directly for dealing with the dragon. Like, yes, mirroring with the Grail Knights and with the Paladin and Rapunzel like he was trying to do is definitely the right call. Just a little bit tricky. The Trebuchet ended up not really paying for itself, and I'm not the biggest fan generally of taking artillery against very mobile factions like the Wood Elves. It's not best to be tied to it necessarily, but I don't know, maybe just going with more of an offensive focus. Maybe you swap this out 1-to-1 for like the Regiment of Renown Battle Pilgrims, who trade very well against Dryads, and just generally are going to be decent in this matchup against all Wood Elf infantry. Yeah, the archers also, I was able to counteract fairly well. Mobs, getting rid of them. Knights, of course, fairly cost-effective. Knights of the Realm generally do a pretty good job in this matchup, especially. But, yeah, just kind of the woods there a little bit, and definitely the dragon carrying a significant amount of value. The archers also doing a nice job here. Starfire Shafts are very dangerous for the cost, especially now that they deal magic damage again. Very useful in a multitude of situations. Eternal Guards also contribute nicely. And then the one Dryad here with 275 kills and 1,000 damage value. I mean, the weapon strength, and was it weapon strength, the charge bonus buff that they gave Dryads with the Myrtle Empires? I forget. But it certainly helps them clean up chaff units much more efficiently. And they definitely function in that DPS role very cost effectively. They're, you know, below 600 points, which is, I mean, 600 to 750 is kind of the typical range for those DPS type units, right? You look at like Plague Bunks, even technically Battle Pilgrims, like I was just mentioning, right? Come in at 600. Dryads being below that are quite cost effective and generally do perform much better now than they did in the past. It's nice to have a few of them alongside your staunch line of spears versus Bretonnia, but generally a great match, I have to say. Fairly impressed by this combination of the dragon and aerial. It is quite expensive, leaves you a little bit thin on the ground. Like, I had these two expensive characters and then just a lot of cheap units, but that's kind of the elf way to a degree. Yeah, but just in general, I think the Wood Elves melee builds especially, because oftentimes people are preparing much more for a missile focus, right? Like, people kind of have this conception of the Wood Elves as a missile faction, which is true to a degree, but definitely, kind of like with Vampire Coast, their melee power is quite surprising. Less so than Vampire Coast. They're probably the best faction in the game right now, actually. But anyway, yeah, the Male Glade Lord definitely plays a big part in that. Of course, up on the Forest Dragon. Aerial also, though. I mean, Dwellers still has yet to be nerfed. Still one of the best spells in the game. Also has Apotheosis. Soul Stealer is kind of here. I wouldn't recommend wasting your Winds of Magic on it, though, when you have access to Dwellers on the same character. And then, of course, Greater Arcane Conduit is nice, or just that extra little bit of healing and damage on said spells. And then, yeah, the Dart of Doom, probably cut. It's okay, but if, you know, Wood Elves, you need to prioritize getting as much funds unlocked as possible. Acorn of the Oak of Ages, same thing. Like, it's okay if you can get it on a really good blob, you get some good value out of it. Only 200 cost, 2 times cast, so, I mean, ultimately you only need to get 100 value on each of those casts to make it worthwhile, purely from a damage perspective. The speed debuff is also nice to have, but certainly Berry Wine is the only one I would view as mandatory, right? And with just this minimalist kit, she still comes in at almost 2,000 points. So, I mean, together these guys are closing in on 4,500 points worth of character. Again, because the Wood Elves roster is not particularly cheap in general, it does leave you a little bit thin in terms of deciding what units to bring. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. It's definitely an interesting matchup. Definitely very dynamic, I feel. Bretonnian Heavy Cavalry has historically been a problem for Wood Elves, but I don't know, maybe like the Dragon Mass buff and some other things may have changed that, perhaps, or the Dryad buff, or who knows. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.